Welcome back to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please rate us on all the podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share wherever else you're listening, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to another episode. We appreciate you coming back as always. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Leave a comment if you're in or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That really helps us out a lot. Want to thank Adam Chubbuck with Douglas Realty. Website is tacmd.com. That's tacmd.com. Adam is going to give you the most honest assessment of your situation. And in this market, these times, I mean, we're just after the presidential election. It's good to have someone who has their finger on the pulse of what's going on within their industry. This is not the time to look for a new agent or a friend or a buddy. This is probably the biggest purchase or sale that you're going to have in your life. So you need a true professional. So go to tacmd.com and talk with Adam about your situation, and he will guide you in the right direction. So today is November 6th, 2024. As everyone knows, yesterday, the November 5th, was the National Election Day. This episode is probably going to go out on 5 plus 7.
12?
12th. This will go out on November 12th, so that's when you'll all be hearing this. Donald Trump won the presidential election, which has caused a meltdown of some people and caused others to ejaculate in their pants.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I have friends that go across the board politically all throughout the spectrum, and, some of the stuff I've been reading them that they posted, it's, like one was a note to their child, like, in 4 years you can feel safe again, and I'm like, oh, okay, what is the it's like you're really reading this thing a little bit too much. And then my other thought is that if these, and I've had this thought for a while, and it's not my own, I mean, I've heard it from some other sources, but if a presidential election causes that much grief or that much elation among people, and the amount of money that's spent on it, and this year was $15 billion total among both sides, then to me it's like kind of a sign that it's playing too big of a role in people's lives. Because that's not what the founding fathers envisioned when the federal government, the average citizen was not supposed to have that much interaction with the federal government. They're supposed to have interaction with their state and local government. But people just take it to this level where, like, it probably isn't that big of a deal on your day-to-day life. But if all you do is, mainline MSNBC and CNN all day, and Vox and the Krasensteins and all these clowns on Twitter, then I guess maybe it is, because you're just mainlining it all the time. It's your entire existence is consuming this media.
You got to remember, like, all those people and things that you just mentioned are getting a piece of that $15 billion.
Oh, yeah.
So it behooves them to say things or post things that are going to get you to click. And we've talked about the clicking.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that a lot. And how media outlets are going to manipulate you to come back. Or they're going to manipulate you to stay on that platform for another 15 minutes, another 10 minutes, another hour. Because the longer you're there, the more they can charge for the ads. Mm-hmm. For example, I mean, on Twitter, and I'm not really sure how this is legal, because all of these people are paid by campaign super PACs.
Yeah. And
all of the expenditures, I believe, have to be reported to the FEC. And generally, all campaign ads, even from super PACs, like when you see them on TV, on the very bottom, it says, it's got the disclaimer, and it says this ad was paid for by who it was, and it is or it isn't associated with the candidate. But nobody has to do that on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I can post something, and it's posing like it's my own personal thoughts. not a paid for political ad. And I think that's going to have to be something that's really looked into moving forward, because it's been happening for a long time. So like those Krasenstein brothers, who, by the way, don't have the cleanest history, are posting constantly,
Yeah.
like 6, 7, 8 times a day for a certain political candidate. And they're paid to do that. They don't naturally like the candidate. Or if they do, it's pure coincidence. They're still receiving money from some kind of political action.
Right. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
Correct. And it's different if it's a journalist. So let's say if it's someone from the New York Times, right? They're allowed to post. Everyone knows that their account is connected to the New York Post or the New York Times or whatever it is. And Twitter's actually made that a mark on every single person. So you either get a blue check mark if you paid for it yourself. There's yellow check marks for if you're part of a corporation, and there's gray check marks if you're part of a government.
Okay.
So you know who everyone's affiliated with. If you just have a blue check mark, but you're running political ads, you're supposed to say who you're running them for. That they have to do it on TV. They have to do it on the radio. Why is social media exempt from this? But that's kind of beside the point.
Yeah.
My point is that, like you said, $15 billion. Now imagine, it's not $15 billion just 1 year. It's $15 billion every 2 years.
Yeah.
And by keeping you engaged, they keep that number going up and up and up.
Right.
Because the people donating the money are benefiting on the back end through lobbying groups.
Well, and it's funny how, like, you talk about something like the Krasensteins. And when I first got into Twitter, I was almost a blue no matter who Democrat before I got red pilled from COVID. But I used to follow those guys. And then when I kind of realized what was going on, kind of had my red pill experience there, I'd follow them. And every now and then I wanted to, like, comment and tell them how stupid they were. And then I see all these other people doing the same thing. And then I thought, well, first of all, I don't comment at all on Twitter. And if I were to, I don't think I've ever commented or posted a single tweet or X. What's it called now that's an X?
X.
You just X'd it?
I have no idea.
I was Xing?
It could be the dumbest rebrand.
Yeah.
Off of his, like, teenage fantasy.
Yeah.
So, for people that don't know, back in the day, Elon wanted to start a company called X. And this was before his PayPal days. And I think he had purchased the X.com brand and website, and then he let it lapse and someone else bought it. And he ended up buying X.com back as a domain. And his idea was to make it an all-in-one app, much like I think Weibo is in China.
Okay.
So it's messaging, social media, payment processing,
social credit score.
probably. I mean, yeah. So I mean, that was the whole idea behind him renaming it X. Everyone still calls them tweets, and everyone still calls it Twitter. I feel like an idiot calling it X.
Yeah, and I think for a while when they first did it, you could, if you wanted to, you can go into your settings and change your icon to the little bird. I didn't care enough.
You're also talking about an infant in his mind.
Yeah.
Because he named his cars the Model S, the Model 3, the Model X, and the Model Y.
Right.
Whereas if you put it all together, it spells sexy.
Yeah.
With a backward E. So, look.
And his kid's name is like a symbol or a mathematical formula or something.
He's not a sane individual.
No.
I mean, don't run. Brilliant as all hell.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of what he did with Twitter and how he kept it free and open for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he exposed the government's involvement in censorship with social media through the X-Files or Twitter files back in the day. I'm appreciative of all of that. But I'm also not telling you this is just a run-of-the-mill normal guy.
Right.
Right. Okay. Let's just be honest about this. My man's a little weird.
Yeah. A little out there.
But thank you anyway.
Yeah. But, so, well, I think I kind of, so anyway, when you comment on these people, even if you hate them and disagree, you're still upping their market value because their exposure goes up and then the algorithms pick it up. So if they make some stupid tweet about something that gets everyone all fired up and everyone goes, you're an idiot, you're a freaking moron and all this crap. Well, they can say whatever they want. It's it's upping their value. More comments, more views, more posts, more people are seeing it. So then, yeah, you can go tell that guy you're a moron and get into an argument with somebody else about it. But guess what? You're just inflating this person who you disagree with and giving that opinion more exposure.
And as a regular person, they're never going to respond to you.
Yeah.
Never. They're only going to engage with accounts that are bigger than them.
Yeah.
Because it gives them exposure to that person's accounts and followers. They're never, if you have, like, I think right now we have 420 followers on Twitter, which oddly enough, it keeps going up. But every time I see who's following us, it's all OnlyFans fucking links. Yeah. Like, I swear to God, dude, I don't remember the last time we got an actual person follower on that account.
Yeah, because they're just hoping for the blind follow back.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what they're doing. So what they're doing is they call it engagement farming. Mm-hmm. They're not going to engage with you because you only have 300 to 400 followers.
Yeah.
And I hate that word followers. I think it fucking sounds cultish. But we're going to use the terms they use. But let's say they've got 50,000 followers on one of the Krasenstein's accounts. They're going to engage with a Tim Pool account who has 500,000 followers because that gets their account, and the off chance that they can get 100 to 200 followers off of his 500,000 is very high.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that they don't follow someone necessarily because they like them. They follow them also because they hate them.
Yeah.
And a good chance is if someone hates a Tim Pool, they're going to like an Ed Krasenstein. Mm-hmm. It all goes back. There was that old Howard Stern movie called Private Parts. And we've talked about this. People will tune in longer and listen to you longer if they dislike you rather than if they like you.
Oh, yeah.
Or you're going to get both. But they're going to, if you're unpredictable, they listen to you longer because the whole thing, the survey they did was because I want to hear what he does next. But it was the people that hated him that listened to him longer.
Yeah.
Reason being, I want to hear what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't necessarily pay to be likable. Like, and so if all of the engagement, and you look in some of these guys' posts, and it's not just them, it's like Brooklyn Dad, JoJo from Jers, Harry Sisson, Chris Mallory, like there's a whole litany of them, and they're all being paid by the DNC or some super PAC of some sort to the point, and they're effective to the point where they all got invited to the White House.
Yeah.
Think about it. Some internet jockey got invited to the White House. That was never a thing, right? But they're so effective marketing to the voters that they want to vote for. So a lot of the comments are literally hate comments underneath them, and they don't monitor it. They literally post something and walk away.
Oh, yeah. They don't. Like, you go and you know, Billy Bob, send your dig in there, or, you know, Sue, you throw your dig in there. You really got them. You really struck a chord. They don't ever look at the comments. They don't care.
No.
Now, if someone big goes and does it, they might comment back or something. But very rarely are they going to go and get someone to, you know, because you know the blue hair lady from the post office went and wrote something on there about how angry she was at their tweet. They don't care.
Right. And some of these accounts, they write these little scripts. And so what they'll do is they'll put a tweet out, and they've got another kind of app or script that monitors their Twitter feed. And anytime someone with a bigger audience tweets at them, comments, retweets them, whatever, it notifies them. Mm-hmm. That's how they know to go comment on that.
Yeah.
But if you're below that follower count, they don't get notified. So they literally get notified when that bigger account comes back at them, and they know, okay, I'm going to jump on this because I'm going to get more engagement by engaging with that person versus if I got Shelly from, Shelly from the block.
Yeah,
I'm going to get shit from her 20 followers, so right. I'm not going to bother. And they're going to show you more of the stuff that you hate as a regular user of it, and make no bones about it, a majority of the users on Twitter are average, ordinary Joes that don't pay for it. Mm-hmm. You just don't see them.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be pushed in your feed, because that's one of the weird things about Elon's Twitter. It pushes the blue check marks or the gold check marks or the gray ones. Why? Because he wants those people to get more engagement, so they keep paying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Does Driveway Beers have a blue check mark?
We do not. We had one for like 3 months.
Right.
And I was like,
We do have, there is an MD, PhD,
yes.
DDS.
I believe there's an MD, PhD, DDS, and there's also a DDoS in there just for fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In case we wanted to be computer hackers, I was like, well, why not?
Yeah.
We are Twitter doctors, and I keep saying when people refer to us, they should be referring to us as
Doctor.
Yes. Dr. Driveway or Dr. Beers.
Dr. Beers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start holding people to that because I feel I'm going to go on my feelings. I feel we've earned it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, duh.
Yeah. What are we a doctor in? Don't know yet.
Yeah.
We're still feeling out our doctorness.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Are we MDs? Yes. Are we PhDs? Also, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, little D. I think I threw the DDS in there just in case we want to be dentists.
Yeah. DVM.
Look, anyone nowadays can get a PhD, and it's not just enough to have one. Now, I feel like MD is the real deal. I don't know. I feel like there should be another classification for scholars like us.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I wouldn't say DN for D's nuts, but something. There's got to be some abbreviation.
DBS, Doctor Bullshit.
I believe we both do have actual BSs.
Yeah.
Mine's a BS. I don't know what yours is.
Mine is.
Is yours a BA or BS?
It's a BS.
Oh, see, maybe the school knew what they were doing.
Of its sciences, of behavioral sciences.
The fact that they
so I'm a scientist.
The fact that they gave me a Bachelor of Science is fucking ridiculous. Because I graduated with a finance degree. Why that's a BS, I don't fucking know.
Because it's math.
Sure. Let's call it that.
Because there's math involved.
I mean, I'm good with the maths, but enough to have some letters after my name.
Yeah.
Although, are you one of the people? Do you put BS after your name?
No.
I can't stand those fuckers.
I put nothing.
I'm sorry. Anyone who puts their bachelor's in their signature, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You're not that important.
I think maybe if I were if I worked in an academic setting, I might, where it would matter. But no.
I feel like that's not a flex in that level.
No, BS isn't.
No, because if you got the guy next door with a PhD, you look like an asshole with your BS.
Right.
In the email signature. It doesn't look good.
I'm going to make GED.
Yeah.
But you'll see all those credentialing and all the titles. That's very big in the UK because they have Lord Chancellor of the Exchequer, blah 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 blah. But Colin Powell, who has multiple PhDs, did Colin Powell pass away?
Not sure.
I don't know. Anyway, has or had, possesses, I guess he still has them even if he's dead, multiple PhDs. He was the Secretary of State and also a 4-star general. He only goes by one title. So he doesn't go by Dr. General, the Honorable Colin Powell, PhD, U.S. Army retired, Secretary of State. He'll go by, usually you take the highest one, that's the only one you use. So, or you use one that's most appropriate. If he was doing something on a military setting, he'd be General Colin Powell, U.S. Army retired.
He is deceased, by the way.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
But that's how, that dude has a ton of titles and only uses one. And then when people put, add their titles and all that stuff, it starts looking real douchey. If Colin Powell could get away with just being, using one. So.
Listen, Shaquille O'Neal has 2 honorary doctorates. If you get an honorary degree and you're putting that shit in your email signature, you got to fuck right there.
Oh, if I get an honorary one, I'm definitely putting it in there.
Look, if I had one, I probably would. I would still think I'm a douchebag though.
Yeah. And I'd wear the costume with the freaking hat and all the scarves.
Speaking of Colin Powell, is there any person in recent more recent history that got fucked over more than that guy because of the misinformation they gave him to start the Iraq War.
Oh,
Because he was not aware it was misinformation. I think they gave him the classified documents and he believed it because he didn't think they would try and pull one over on him, and they pulled one over on him. And then he ended up, he took a ton of shit for that.
Yeah.
And I really don't think he knew that what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was like a youthful puppet at the time.
Yeah. He had credibility to it because everyone trusts Colin Powell.
I mean, yeah. So, rest in peace, Colin Powell. Also want to say anything we say here does not represent anything other than our opinions and or feelings, and do not represent any other organization other than the Driveway Beers podcast.
Right.
Disclaimer done.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Exalted Driveway Beers.
Yes.
But
but this is definitely for comedic and opinionated purposes.
yeah.
Don't take any of this shit as fact. Except it might sound factual.
Right. I mean, some stuff is derived from fact.
I think Pat McAfee says their show is comedically factual.
Yeah.
I think I like that. We're
I like
comedically informative.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
Because you can laugh and be informed at the same time.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, I guess we should probably spin this back to the election, which...
I want to make one more comment because we were talking about education.
Okay.
All right. So, on the Twitters, one of the major talking points is they like to put up the top 5 educated states and then the bottom 5 educated states.
Okay.
And they like to show that the top 5 educated states, and these are the ones with the highest number of college-educated folks, versus the number of states with the least amount of college-educated folks, and who they voted for. Of course, the 5 highest college-educated states all voted for Miss Vice President Kamala Harris for president, and the bottom 5 least educated states all voted for current president or future president Donald J. Trump.
President-elect.
President-elect, although he's already president, so you still call him president-elect?
President
I mean, I know he's not president until January 20th, but
yeah.
he was when you greet him, it's President Trump.
Mr. President for life.
Okay, yeah. So, semantics. They like to throw that out there, though. So now, basically, they're saying only the dumb people voted for Trump.
71 million dumb people did.
71 million.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know how many less Democrat voters there were this time?
I do not. 15
million less voters.
Wow.
There were 81 million votes for Joe Biden.
Okay.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
As Madam Vice President likes to call him. Joe Biden. 81 million votes. She got 66.
Yeah.
That is a 15 million vote difference.
That's crazy.
Now, Donald Trump got 74 million in 2020. He got 71 million. So he got 3 million less.
Yeah.
Now, did all these voters just disappear? Or maybe, just maybe, there might have been some fuckery in 2020. Now, I'm not saying there was.
That would get us kicked off all kinds of stuff.
That would. That's why I'm not saying there was.
Right.
I'm just saying maybe. Because if you look at the votes going past the past 4 elections, the votes from what's the one before 2016? What was the one before that? 2012. Thank you for the math. And I'm the one with the BS in math, right?
Right.
Okay. So 2012 and 2016, the number of votes was actually relatively stable. Then you get to 2020. Voters, and this was the COVID year, a lot of the mail-in ballot stuff. Mm-hmm. Voting numbers went through the roof.
Yes.
Like almost, I believe it was 30 million more votes. So it was about 50 million in 2016 for Democrat Hillary Clinton. For Hillary Clinton. And 2020 for Joe Biden, it was 81 million. Mm-hmm. That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Trump had a huge jump as well. Okay. You get to 2024, Trump gets 3 million less. She gets 15 million less. Mm-hmm. However, it's still above the 2016 level.
Yeah.
So did all of these voters just kind of disappear, or maybe And again, maybe, I'm not saying this is factual. Again, comedic show. I'm saying some of this tongue-in-cheek. Maybe, allegedly, not all of the votes in 2020 were on the up and up. Or maybe ballot harvesting was done on such a large organized scale and it couldn't be done the same way this time because a lot of the legislatures fixed their mail-in voting.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't just some free-for-all Wild West.
I remember, I want to say that in 2020, we had ballots mailed to our house.
Yep.
And so when we first bought the house, we moved from a 2-bedroom apartment, didn't have any kids. So we had 3 different roommates that rented one of our rooms from us. We got ballots for 2 of the 3 people. So they just showed up. And one of them was my sister. Another one was one of my wife's friends. Well, one of my friends, too. Was my buddy's ex-girlfriend. Both of those 2 former residents were super, super, super lefty. And I always thought, I'll go ahead and vote for them. Of course, I'm an ethical person. I didn't do that. I just threw them out. But how many people who are not as scrupulous would go and just say, oh, yeah, let me fill these out for my guy and send them in.
Right.
And when you look at places that have, first of all, it's over, the early voting, mail-in voting, generally that's more of your Democrats than Republicans. Republicans tend to vote.
This time, though.
Right. And which I thought was a good move. They played that game, too. Because before, they're like, don't do it, vote in person, all this other stuff. And that was one of the things that kind of kept it. Because remember, in 2020, you went to bed, Trump was on top, and you woke up the next morning, and it just shot up. It just looked bad. And, some places said, they're going to count them first, which is what they should have done. Just, get those first. So as people were voting on election day, start counting the mail-in, but don't publicize the results until the election day. So you're starting with that count already there.
And you had people ready for that this time.
Yeah.
So there were more observers, and when the observers weren't let in, there were lawyers ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
To make sure they were let in.
Well, it's like the thing in Milwaukee when they had the tabulation machines, that they weren't they were tagged out, but they weren't locked out, and someone noticed it and they shut the whole thing down. So it helped delay. Now Trump ended up winning that state anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there were instances of double counting votes. There were some machines that weren't tabulating any votes, even though they were running them through. And luckily, everything was caught this time. And so, this is one of those things. I do think one of the things Trump is going to do, he is going to look into election processes. Like, for example, you got Florida, one of the largest states population-wise, and by 10, 11 o'clock,
they're done. 100%.
The votes are done.
Yeah.
Now, don't be wrong. Florida was the butt of all jokes back in 2000 with the Gore
the hanging Chad.
Yeah. Well, they obviously figured out how to fix their shit.
Yeah.
I don't understand why every state has to have a different system as far as how to count a ballot.
Yeah.
Okay, look, there's enough states that do it quickly and properly.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't the ones that don't go to the ones that do and say, hey, what are you doing? Let's just implement that. For example, like Arizona, God, they fucking suck at counting votes.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like, you got 50 states in this union here. You're telling me you can't go to any one of these other ones and figure out what they're doing?
Right.
So you can get a vote done by 11 p.m.?
And you'd think that, and like Nevada, they won't start counting votes until the last vote's been cast.
Right. So I get not reporting until it's closed, right? Because you don't want to influence voters.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing. Like, you don't want to show one candidate's way up or way down and people are still voting, because it might also get people to go to vote or stop voting.
Right.
It's supposed to, that whole thing is, it disenfranchises voters.
No, I get it 100%. Like, if your guy is down because people don't pay attention to the numbers and stuff. Say they see like all of a sudden their guy is down 60-40.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to bother going out.
Right.
What's the point? It's not. There's no one really. Oh wait, no. It was actually we just hadn't counted his votes yet, or we started counting Baltimore City's vote before we counted Queen Anne's County. Like, oh crap, we should have. So,
which part do we want to talk about next? Do we want to talk about what we think is going to happen in the next 4 years?
I kind of wanted to talk about the two campaigns.
Okay.
And how, just from my own observations, and and that can kind of bleed into what the next 4 years could be like.
Yeah.
But on the whole mess from essentially the coup they did with Joe Biden and installing her.
And for people that don't think that was a coup, by the way, like, I literally had someone sit down the other day and they looked me dead straight in the face and said January 6th was an insurrection and a coup. Like, people are still saying that shit.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the current Democratic candidate for vice president didn't get a single vote in the primary.
Yeah.
And they literally just overthrew the president.
Yeah.
But no guns were drawn. I mean, I guess that could be my thing has been, you can't really call January 6th a coup because there were no guns.
Right.
But guess what? They did it with no guns.
I always laugh when they call it the insurrection. And I watched MSNBC this morning just because I wanted to see their reaction, which was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Really? Now, there were some ridiculous statements out there. Did
you hear Joy Reid's thing?
No, I didn't see her. I kind of got sick of it, and I ended up going to the basement and lifting weights. But the Al Sharpton was on Morning Joe, and Al Sharpton said that essentially, I'm not going to say quote him verbatim because I don't know it, but pretty much what he was getting at was that black men and Hispanic men that voted for Donald Trump did so because they're misogynists. And there's always an excuse. Rather than first of all, stop putting people into boxes and assuming that, black people, Hispanic people, white people, no one's a monolith. They don't all think the same. So they assume like, oh, we have the black vote. And maybe taking them for granted for so long and then putting, not doing anything for them and just expecting them to come out and vote for you. Maybe they said, yeah, fuck you. I'm done with you.
Or maybe they found out past Democratic policies were actually meant to suppress certain individuals.
Yeah.
And they're just now finding out.
Yeah.
It was fun. On Twitter, there was this one Latina lady. I won't say Latinx. They hate that shit.
No, I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic or Latino, whatever, depending, and they don't even care. A lot of them want to be called like where they're from.
Yeah,
they don't want to be bunched into this group Hispanic. Like, no, I'm Mexican, I'm El Salvadoran, I'm Puerto Rican. Like, they want to be called. But in any case, like, they hate that because it's not their language. That's some dumb shit that some idiot in a university made up. Oh, we're gonna call them. I like to say Latinx.
Right. So there's this one Latin lady or Hispanic lady, and she clipped that Al Sharpton thing, and she retweets it or requotes it or quote tweets it, whatever they fucking do, and she goes, "You can rest now, white people. Hispanics got this white supremacy thing down." I was like, and that was like, we were talking about that a while back. It's like, damn, the white supremacy tent really opened up. Yeah, because there was a time when like there were like 4 or 5 white supremacy acts that the news said were white supremacy acts, and not one of the perpetrators was white.
Right.
Like, goddamn, like, did we outsourced white supremacy?
Yeah.
Like, we let it
outsource everything else.
Like, we outsourced to a Pakistani man. We outsourced to a couple of black guys. I mean, the Juicy Smollett thing.
Yeah.
I mean, two Nigerian guys. We didn't even stay within the country for that. I mean,
right.
I mean, we apparently do not know how to do white supremacy like they used to.
No.
We suck at this.
So privileged that we can't even maintain our own.
Right. We can't even maintain our own supremacy. We're bringing in others to fight for our supremacy. What the hell are we doing, guys? And so, yeah. And so Joy Reid on MSNBC, she thought it would be great to blame white women.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So white women were apparently the problem this time. And I kind of like, I feel like the Democrats, and I say Democrats and not liberals, I'm doing that on purpose, because the Democrat Party right now is something else. I don't know what it is, right? But it's not full of liberals anymore. But it's like the Democrat Party thinks that the way to get more people to vote is by using the equivalent of mother's guilt on people. Mm-hmm. Let's guilt them into voting a certain way. And people are just like, fuck this shit, I'm done. Like, you call everyone a racist, a misogynist, a bigot, a homophobe, a transphobe. Like, eventually all of these words lose meaning, and you can't use them to guilt someone into voting the way you want them to vote anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, you literally, you got to the point where the little girl grows up and realizes the mother is using this guilt on her, and she just says, fuck it, I'm done with you. Until you can stop doing this narcissistic bullshit where you just guilt me into this shit, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here. Like, the whole bullshit of, well, the more educated people voted for Kamala. Thanks, white women. Mm-hmm. Or like in 2016, when Trump won the first time, Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, I remember this vividly. She's like, thanks, America. Like, that smug bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Eventually, American people especially get tired of just being berated. It's like, well, you can't move forward.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have the elites, right, who are unabashedly elite. And when they say things like that, it shows that they really do think and feel that they're better than everybody else. So they know better. Listen to them. They're the experts. It really came out during COVID with, oh no, the experts say the experts. The experts were freaking wrong about everything.
You gotta trust the science.
Yeah, I am the science. I am science. Yeah, that jerk off.
And he also fucking killed a ton of people during the AIDS epidemic too.
Yeah.
People found out about that dude's past real quick.
Yep. Not to mention funding the freaking Wuhan lab.
Yeah, right. Thanks for funding the virus that killed all the people, you dirtbag. And then lying about it.
Yeah. But I'm the science.
We don't fund gain of research.
Yeah.
You fucking do, and your emails showed it. You didn't think those emails were coming out, did you?
Right.
Oh, they did.
But when you see things like that, people get pissed off, right? So then they're going to go against whatever these elites want you to do. These people are in a bubble and they're in an echo chamber. And these media people, they're in the echo chamber bubble themselves. And they have a complete lack of self-awareness. So when you have Al Sharpton calling black and Latino men misogynists for not voting, maybe they didn't like her policies. She didn't have any her campaign was about joy, which, Like, that's a great thing to come and march out to but you have to put something on the table, which she never did. The only thing she was really, that you knew her position on was abortion. That was it. So their lack of self-awareness, and it then goes and undercuts what little credibility they have left, which they have zero. Absolutely none. So
people still believe this shit though,
which is wild, because I still hear people talking about the insurrection, and I always say, like, so all the gun nuts got together at the Capitol to overthrow the United States government, but not one of them brought a single gun with them.
If you tell one of them, though, that there were no guns there, they vehemently say, oh, yes, there was.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. There were guns there. From the guy that was inside the Senate chamber who shot Ashley Babbitt between the eyes.
Yeah.
That and the Capitol police officers had guns.
Mm-hmm.
Not one person that was going into the Capitol had a gun. Now, do I think all of those people are saints? No, I think some of them are dumbasses.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have climbed the wall. You shouldn't have broken the windows. You shouldn't use the flags as pokers or whatever, or whatever. But then you got the people on the other side of the complex who were let in the door.
Yeah.
And they ended up in jail. Like that fucking guy with the horn shit.
Oh, the QAnon shaman?
Yeah. That dumb... Like, they literally put that dude in jail for walking around the halls of Congress with a police officer standing right next to him who let him walk in, walk around, even open a couple doors for him, and then let him leave.
Yeah.
But he got thrown in jail.
Yeah, well, and that's the wild thing is that when you see video of that and you see that there were people going through the rotunda and they had the velvet ropes.
They stayed in the velvet
They
ropes.
stayed in the velvet ropes. It was like the most polite insurrection ever. And I think we talked about this before. Like, anyone's ever seen a government get overthrown? It's not like that.
So the person I was talking to, and this was the other night, you know this person. I'm not going to say the name because that's not right.
Yeah.
I've only said names once on this show, and I stand by that fucking horse shit. Anyway, I mentioned all of this to them, and it was like I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was the one that was misinformed.
You're the asshole.
Yes.
You're the purveyor of mis and disinformation.
I am. Like, I literally got like, and then someone at the table says, "Oh, we will just," because there were a couple people, and I was one of the only people saying this. And one other person there was like kind of like 2-on-2 with one bystander, and so one of the people who's on the other side of this argument is like, we'll just agree to disagree, and that other person goes, "No, that's not an acceptable solution anymore." So I looked at him, and again, this is supposedly friendly-ish people here. I said, "Okay, well, then what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying, okay, what's your plan of action if you can't agree to disagree?
Do we go outside and fight?
Right? Do we like? Is there going to be a problem here?" And I didn't say that. I just said, "Well, what are we doing here then?" And we literally just stared at each other for like what felt like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Then finally he breaks the silence. "Oh, we're just drinking."
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because this wasn't going to lead to anything. Like you can believe what you want to believe, but I'm also not going to. Like, I've gotten to the point where people are going to say these crazy and outlandish things, and I just don't stay silent. I say, "Well, no, that's not actually what happened." I don't yell. I don't get loud. I just calmly don't agree.
Yeah.
And nobody, they don't like it.
No.
They do not like it.
Well, it's because it's really brainwashed. It's brainwashing.
And my whole thing is, I get it. Like, people are, just be quiet. You're not going to convince them otherwise. I said, I can understand that. But why should they be able to say these outlandish things and I shouldn't be able to say the opposite?
Right. And especially when what you're saying is the truth.
Correct.
So, but that's not the narrative that they've been fed for the last almost 4 years. The narrative that they've been fed is that it was an insurrection. And if you watch any of the, and I always pick on MSNBC because they're the most flagrantly biased. They're the Fox News of the left.
It's so bad. Like, the way they talk down to viewers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's face it, that's who's watching, right? Now, some people are hate watching, and I'm sure they know that. But it's like, that's your method of conveying information, is to talk down to people.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, when people post that stuff about the 5 more educated states and the 5 lower educated states, and I was like, my comeback to that is, your education is only as good as the teachers and the information that they taught you.
Yeah.
If you go to a university and you go and get a biased, opinionated class, which a lot of them are, they're based on someone wrote a book that got published, because you can get anything published.
Yeah.
They then go to these universities and says, "Well, I'm a published author," and they give you a teaching job, and then you then teach that book. The book doesn't have to be proven factual or anything.
No.
And so my point was this. I was like, okay, so your 4-year degree in women's studies makes you smarter than the plumber who's fixing your pipes right now, who charged you $120 an hour just to walk in the door.
Right.
They're the dumb ones.
For something that, had you Googled, you could have fixed for $14.
But they couldn't.
Yeah.
But my point is this, is that guy is never going to be out of a job, whereas your only job is going to be in academia. And you need to hope that university wants to still have you teach that class before they figure out that it's complete bullshit and nobody can get a job in it.
Yeah.
And a kid's going to end up coming out of college with $120,000 worth of debt, and they now have they've got a degree in ancient African studies.
Yeah, no marketable skills.
Yet they don't plan to going to Africa. They don't plan on doing archaeological digs because they're not archaeologists.
Right.
They have no plan on studying anything in Africa. So the only job that they really have available to them is going to another university and convincing them that this class that you now wrote a PhD paper on in college, you should now be teaching this to somebody.
Yeah.
That's your education. You don't have an education in jack shit.
Right.
You have an education in something probably completely either made up or has no useful value outside of a passing knowledge of it. Like, is African history important? Yes, it is. I would love to learn it. But guess what? There's no one that has a job other than a professor at a university that teaches that shit.
Right. You're gonna, yeah. And you might slay a Jeopardy category if you get on Jeopardy, and if it's one of the categories.
And now you got 120 grand worth of debt, which you can't go into the field of your choice to pay the fuck off because no one wants to pay you to do that shit.
Yeah.
So now you're working at fucking Starbucks with your college education. Meanwhile, the guy who doesn't have a college education just fixed your fucking toilet.
Yeah.
For $120 because you couldn't figure how to jiggle the handle.
Yeah. Or the GED holder in Alabama that works out on a Gulf oil rig.
Yes.
And, works 2 weeks a month and makes $200,000 a year doing it.
Correct.
But he doesn't have a fancy piece of paper from NYU.
And you look down on him because he's living in a double wide trailer on about 2 acres of land.
Yeah.
And you think he's poor.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's probably got more money in the bank than you do. But he's only in that house probably 1 month out of every 6.
Yeah.
Because he's on the oil rig. But he's the dummy.
Yeah.
You are so educated. But again, that's where, like, that's how these people think though. Well, I've got more of an education than you, so I'm better than you. And I know I know these topics better than you. I hate to tell everyone this. To learn about society and culture and politics, you don't need a degree. I don't need a poli-sci degree to know about politics. Do you want to know what I knew? I just got to listen.
Yeah. Pay attention.
Or I can read a book.
And question things.
I just happened to get my education that didn't cost me 120 grand. Now, don't get me wrong. I did go to college.
Yeah,
we just talked about that.
Yeah.
The difference is I went to college, I got a Bachelor of Science in Finance, and guess what? That's a useful degree that I can go make some money with. Oh, and by the way, I don't look down on the plumber. In fact, I do call him, and I'm thankful that he's there.
Yeah.
And when he has an opinion on some shit, I listen to him. Because he's a human being too.
Yeah.
And his opinion, guess what? He gets a vote just like I get a vote. Now, don't get me wrong. The plumber comes here. I'm not talking to him about politics, but I sure as shit ain't looking down on him.
No, not at all.
And I'm certainly not talking down to him either. Like these motherfuckers are. Because guess what? If I do that, I guarantee you, 1, it's going to piss them off. 2, my rate just went up to $140 an hour. And 3, it ain't going to change his vote.
Yeah.
And yet these people don't get that shit.
No.
Their whole thing is, let me guilt you into voting differently because I think I'm so sanctimonious and awesome.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yep.
That's what I have to say to those people.
And I think that's what 71 million people had to say to him.
Exactly.
Too. And then when you look at, so I kind of look back, and you and I were texting earlier, and, when you look at that campaign, so they're making all these excuses about why she didn't win. It's this, it's that, it's this, the other. Essentially, to me, it comes down to 3 things. They ran a terrible campaign with a weak candidate, and it was a referendum on the progressive agenda. People were tired of it. Because for the last 4 years, it's been real heavy. And even prior to that, with the cancel culture and all the stuff that was going on, it was a referendum against censorship, against, like I said, the progressive agenda, against foreign wars. People are sick of it. So they came out and really said, hey, we're tired of this crap. And a convenient excuse, rather than looking at yourself and saying, hey, here's where we fucked up, is to blame racism and misogyny and xenophobia. It's so easy to do that.
They brought up the patriarchy too.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when really you had men, women, people of all I mean, Donald Trump this campaign had the highest percentage of black voters since of any Republican candidate that since probably since Lincoln. Now, not they couldn't vote then, but
well, slight error.
Yeah.
No, he got over 20% of the black vote. Now, keep in mind, this was a Democrat stronghold voting wise.
Yeah.
Where they didn't crack 12%. Up until I believe 2012.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And what it really gets down to is what I think is these elites who talk about who call the Trump voter racist, who call people all these isms and these slurs, this mischaracterizations, they themselves are the racists. They don't know any actual black people.
Correct.
They don't know any actual, unless it's one of their classmates from their gender studies class, or from their
Harvard,
or from their fellowship, or from their think tank. But they don't know any. They don't know any working class, regular, average folks. They think that in their heads, black people all live in the hood.
Yep.
And if I just throw money at them in bullshit social programs, that will make them happy, and they'll vote for me again. Well, these are smart, intelligent people that are tired of your bullshit too.
So I was talking to our mutual friend, our neighbor, Kashan, and he's been on the show before. And we had talked about how the welfare system had purposefully kept black families poor because of the qualifications to receive welfare checks. And he said his family was essentially his stepfather couldn't live in the home with them because then his mother would either not qualify or would get less money.
Yeah.
So the stepfather did not live with them. And he's like, that purposefully breaks up black families.
Yeah.
And this is a black guy saying this.
Yeah. It just
I think more black people are kind of waking up to this. Like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Lyndon Johnson said this.
Oh yeah.
Welfare does this. And I think poor black people that live in public housing and whatnot, I think they know this. But I think now more middle class, upper class black people are now also learning this. And again, I mean, you're talking about over 20% now voted for Trump. Now, I don't know if it would resonate in the next election. They'll vote for another Republican candidate, and Trump resonates in the black community.
Yeah,
mostly because he was mentioned in almost every rap song in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
So he was revered in New York City.
Well, when he did Madison Square Garden, he had 60,000 people there.
That was wild. And of course, Tony Hinchcliffe decides he made an off-comment joke about Puerto Rico being a landfill.
Yeah.
The comment was in relation to the overflowing landfills in Puerto Rico and the government not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't calling Puerto Ricans trash. He said it was a floating trash, I forget what he said, something floating trash island or something like that, because of the overflowing landfills and no one's doing anything about it. And there was this one Puerto Rican guy saying, this might not have been the way we wanted people to find out about this, but thank God he said something.
Yeah.
Because now people know about it, and they're actually maybe they'll give a shit now.
Yeah.
And it was, but then of course the day after though, it was like, oh, Donald Trump's a racist and hates Puerto Ricans, because this guy said it. Yeah,
because they sniped the one segment out to use that, and then they just say it over and over and over. And I'm sure you've seen the different videos where they're all saying the same thing: safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. Insurrection, save our democracy, and it's all the talking heads from all the networks. They're all getting the same memo. So it's coordinated. You can see it. It's clearly coordinated. But they just did that to him with that. Again,
it was a last ditch effort to try and get people to. And then Dark Brandon went just full Monty and just said, all of Trump supporters are trash.
Oh yeah,
Like, damn.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about a guy, a sitting president campaigning for a future president, just called all of another candidate's supporters like literal trash.
yeah.
And then it's like, dude, like that's not a that's a bold strategy if you ask me.
If I'm trying to get you to support me, I don't think the way to do it is to call you trash. I mean, I'm not a salesman.
No,
I'm not a politician. I think if I'm trying to entice people over to vote for me or to support my cause or whatever it is, I don't think the way to do it is by calling them names and shaming them. So,
but that's their strategy.
yeah,
Remember the guilt.
yeah.
You gotta. If you don't have enough white guilt, how can you win an election?
Well,
You
yeah,
know, I mean, come on now.
yeah,
The one last thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be the last thing. We can continue.
right.
But I guess the one last point I had. Well, actually, there were two. One, props to Gen X, by the way. It's the only generation that voted over 50% for Trump. Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes along with the theme of everyone, like Gen X kind of flies in, tells everyone to shut the fuck up, and brings everyone back to reality because we don't fuck around with people.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, enough of the shit. We're going back to this. Stop with all the bullshit. Mm-hmm. And like Democrats had a pretty easy path to re-election if they didn't do three things. One, the boys and girls sports. Even my mother, who votes Democrat,
Yeah,
was like having, like, she would go into some of these doctors' offices, and she was telling me today, like, she'd go into the doctor's office and there'd be the single bathroom, the non-gendered bathroom, and she's like, look, as a little tiny lady, I don't feel comfortable with a man in my space or in a bathroom with me.
yeah,
I just don't feel comfortable with that. And, you know, for someone who she's probably a lifelong Democrat as far as I know, for her to say that is fairly big. And because if she's saying it, others are saying it too, especially in the older generation of women. Then you got, you know, the transgender women and girls sports.
yep,
Or boys and girls sports. That's also a non-starter for a lot of people. And the funny part is, like, I saw a lot of tweets talking about voting against women's rights because of the abortion issue. Well, in my opinion, my vote for Trump was a vote for my two girls. Now, granted, I don't agree with different states having different rules on abortion. I don't agree with that. We are one country. I feel like something, especially if it is a healthcare issue, it should be across the board. And if I were Republicans, especially in this new kind of party that has Tulsi and RFK and Elon and all these people, in all honesty, I would probably have them try and push forward a 20-week abortion ban. And the reason why I say 20 weeks is because 20 weeks is far more liberal than anything in Europe.
yeah.
And that's considered the liberal bastion of the
Yeah,
world.
what's the French, like 6 weeks?
12.
12? Okay.
I believe French is 12 or 15. Germany is 12 or 15. I mean,
Yeah, one of them 6 or 8. It's like Poland, and Poland's a very Catholic country, so
yeah. Or it could be one of the Scandinavian countries too. Like, there are some, but like, and like Florida's got 6.
yeah.
And I think North Carolina has 12.
Yeah, and for me, like when I was younger, I was abortion, because I, again, being a young college student, thinking how I might need help finance one of these, you know. But now that since I've had children, my perspective has changed, and I really look at it. To my point, I'm still very much, I've said it before on the show, pro-choice but anti-abortion. Sure. I think the practice is reprehensible. Mm-hmm. However, it's not me, and I don't think the government should be involved in it. It's a medical procedure between a physician, their patient, and ultimately God, who will judge them in the end. So go ahead, roll the dice. I mean, if that's what you do now, I do believe the government has a duty to protect its weakest citizens, and if it can't protect the weakest people, then it shouldn't exist. And you'd say the unborn are the weakest, like, because they can't defend themselves at all. So I think limitations are like, oh yeah, you're crowning abortion, and that's ridiculous, and that's also hyperbole too. So, but I think limitations are realistic.
Yeah,
but I do agree with you with the fact, like, a national standard, like we have national standards for everything else.
Yeah.
There's national standards, like, that all come from Department of Health. Each state might interpret it a little bit differently, but it's all pretty much the same.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm not the right person to say what the limit should be. The reason why I say 20 weeks is because 20 weeks is far more liberal than the European countries. And whenever I look for liberal policy, I look to Europe because it's a more liberal place. I don't feel that it should be up until birth.
Yeah, it's
at some point I do believe it's kind of murder. But I will say that I guess I do have a dog in this hunt at some point, because I do have two young daughters. Mm-hmm. I'm all for the exceptions for rape, incest, whatever health
of the mother.
Health of the mother, yeah. I'm for all of that. That should be in every state, at least.
Yeah.
The bare minimum. I still think 20 weeks is the compromise. Everyone would either hate it or love it. Everyone's either going to walk away with a bad taste in their mouth, but like, hey, we got the other side of compromise.
Yeah,
this is a good compromise.
But again, no one is interested on campaigning on solutions. They need the issue.
If you make that go away, Democrats don't have another thing to get people to come out to vote for.
Yeah,
not in the current iteration of it.
Yeah,
because all the liberal stuff like single payer health care and some of this other stuff, no one really has faith in the government to actually do.
The only thing the government's really good at is killing people.
They're really good at that, though.
Historically, governments have been the one thing they excel at is killing and imprisoning their own citizens. That's what governments have historically been very, very good at.
Round of applause. If you're going to be good at something, be good at it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a tough topic. And again, you and I are going to solve it, because I just, this is when I want scientists to science the fuck out of it. Like, figure out the compromise here.
Yeah.
Like, is it when the baby's viable to live outside the womb? Maybe that's the decision. From the time that it isn't to the time that it is. Whatever the time in between that is, maybe that's the limit.
That's your window.
But I don't know, know, and I just feel like there is a compromise there. But again, you're right. If you do make a compromise and it's off the table and you can't incite anger from it, it's of no use to you anymore.
Yeah. Now I did pivot a little bit. Where does the Democrat Party go next? Do they double down and go even more progressive and left? Or do they realize, okay, this got us to a certain point because we capitalized on some incidents that happened, on the abortion question. We keep playing that card. Or do they say, okay, our whole ship's going the wrong direction? That's, because the Republican Party seems to be really good now at picking up these working class, but people that have historically been reliable Democrat votes, like blue collar union types, they're gone.
Yeah, so I think Democrats, the Democrat Party, again, I don't put liberals in the Democrat Party. I think the Democrat Party got caught blindsided by what Trump did to the Republican Party.
Yeah, it's almost like their whole apparatus is built to go against Lindsey Graham and George W. Bush.
That's what they did, though.
Yeah.
They took on their establishment shills, and you and I have talked about this before. The difference between Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer is nothing other than the D and the R after the name.
Yeah.
Same fucking guy.
They both serve the same masters.
Correct. But now you got this guy that comes in Trump. He gets elected the first time. He hires all those fucking guys because he thinks they're going to do what he asked them to do. And they don't. They work against him in the background. And it fucks him over. Right? Like Anthony Fauci was not his guy.
No.
But Anthony Fauci found a way to fuck him over because he was the establishment's guy.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't know about Anthony Fauci, there are books out about the guy and what he did going back to the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
And if you don't want the long book version, go watch the Dallas Buyers Club. He's the government in this situation. Yeah. Okay. Off my soapbox for that. I think the Democrats didn't see this coming. So the GOP kind of took on their establishment, and either the establishment guys got on board or they're getting pushed out.
Or they bailed, like the Cheneys.
The Cheneys. I mean, yeah, think about that.
And then they're celebrating, like, Dick Cheney's like evil. Like the personification of evil.
Right. 10 years ago, he was the devil to Democrats.
Yeah.
Now they're like, look at this, it's bipartisan because he is endorsing Kamala. Yeah. No, you hated this motherfucker.
Right. He freaking shot someone in the face.
Yeah, and they apologized. So I don't think the Democrats saw this coming with how many people left the Democrat Party and went to the GOP, and they were saying, oh, MAGA's racist, MAGA's misogynist. Well, some of these ex-Democrats kind of went to these Trump rallies, or they went and they met with some people that supported Trump, and they were like, wait a minute, these are nice people.
Yeah.
It was like they accepted them with kindness, and they weren't expecting it.
Yeah, they're expecting the Hitler Youth,
Yeah.
and it was just like regular people,
Right?
Because they're getting just mainlining MSNBC. Oh, it's a dictator. And today they were doing it. I was watching the different. I even tried to watch The View, which I couldn't do. I couldn't do it.
Right.
And they're going through, like, they're still saying, the dictatorship starts on day one. I'm like, all the dictatorial shit was done by you guys.
Right.
It's like when a kid gets caught lying, like, they say, like, the kids are eating cookies. I'm like, hey, who ate all the cookies? You did? No, I know I didn't. Mm-hmm. My kids just today, I bought some exercise bands, and I put them downstairs in the basement, and I had them all down there, and then all of a sudden half of them are missing. I said, what did you do with them? Oh, you moved them. No, I know I didn't move them. But that's they just call you out on their lie.
So I think as to where the Democrat Party goes, I think Trump blindsided the shit out of him when he brought in Robert Kennedy Jr. And Tulsi Gabbard, and then Tulsi switched parties. I'm going to make a bold prediction. I believe Tulsi Gabbard becomes the first female president. And I don't know if it's going to happen in 4 years or if it happens. I think if the Republicans were smart, they would run her in 4 years. I know JD Vance is the vice president, but look, if you want to be smart and you want to hold on to it, you run Tulsi as the president. Don't get me wrong, JD Vance does a good job on a microphone. Tulsi is another level of likable. Yeah. She really is.
Now they'd still call her, racist and.
But here's the thing, though.
Sexist.
You've already right. They would call her the patriarchy, right? They'd find some way to basically make her the patriarch.
Yeah.
My point of this is, if this continues the way it's going, where you get a lot of these walkaway people. I mean, there's a hashtag on Twitter called the hashtag walkaway, where they walk away from the Democrat Party. And these people are finding nothing but love in the GOP right now. This is not the grand old party.
No. It's not the party of Mitch McConnell and George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. And there's still some of those old heads left, like Lindsey Graham still wanting to nuke Ukraine and do all this crazy stuff. But, that's like, okay, Grandpa. Like,
right. But he is not the voice that he was before.
No.
And now, so Mitch McConnell is out as Senate leader.
Yeah.
They're talking about putting in a new person. They're talking about Josh Hawley, might be. But someone younger. if they go younger and the Democrats don't pivot to be a more likable party, I think some of these leftists or the liberals, they're realizing that, look, we're only really disagreeing on two main topics here. We agree on everything else.
Yeah.
I might just hang out here. So they might be gone forever. So you might literally have populist liberals and populist conservatives they're possibly creating a new party within the GOP.
Well, it's almost like, so the other day I listened to Tucker Carlson had Jimmy Dore on. Mm-hmm. You have one who is a self-described lefty, mm-hmm. and you have Tucker Carlson, who is the devil incarnate according to the left.
Sure.
And these two dudes are talking for 3 hours, and just there's stuff they disagreed on.
Yeah.
But they yell and scream at each other. A lot of times they came to some sort of consensus and moved on, and then, found that really the real enemy isn't the other side.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, and I think there were so many miscalculations during this election cycle or in the last 4 years that nobody could have predicted were miscalculations. For example, like Tucker Carlson getting fired from MSNBC or from Fox News, for him to only for him to go start a new podcast that got 5 times the audience outside of it. And not only was he not handcuffed by who Fox News could get on his show, now he was bringing on anyone.
Oh yeah.
And he was literally being the political Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. So everyone hates Joe Rogan because he's a bro, right? All the people on the left hate him because he's a bro. He's bro. What do you know? The part about Joe, and I know we're going to get called, Joe Rogan stands for this. Joe Rogan brings people on the show, and he just talks to them.
Yeah, he invited Kamala on.
Correct.
And they had so many requirements. He's like, no, that's not what I do.
Right. But, I mean, even like... So he would have Jimmy Dore on. And, I mean, Rogan's a self-described liberal.
Yeah.
Right? But he would have on the conservative of the conservatives. He would have on the liberal the liberals.
Yeah.
He'd have on men, women. It didn't matter. Entertainers, comedians. It doesn't matter. If you're someone of interest, Joe is going to ask you to come on the show, and he's just going to talk.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think? Or if you're an expert in the field, explain to me what your field is. Mm-hmm. And he just shuts the fuck up.
Yeah.
And he lets people talk. And and then I think Tucker kind of realized that. And so when he got his own show, he's like, well, there seems to be an opening here for a politics show that brings on anyone who's willing to come on and just let them talk.
Yeah.
Or maybe we talk about our differences and maybe we talk about but basically we're just going to have an open conversation.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, like the left, and again, this used to be, the Democrats used to be the free speech bastion party.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like, they want everything curated, structured. It wasn't going to be an open conversation. Everything was going to be, these are the questions I'm going to give you, and I'm going to tell you 5 days in advance so you can curate your answers. It's amazing. Like, so for example, like a guy like Trump, okay? Before he went on Trump, he went on a show called Flagrant, which is Andrew Schultz's podcast. And he went on for 3 hours. And he was, I hate to say it, he's likable.
Yeah.
He went on, he made jokes about people, he made jokes about things, he made jokes about himself. Mm-hmm. And he was joking with he was even joking with like the third and the fourth chair on the show.
Yeah.
And then he goes on Rogan. And he's likable again. Like, holy shit, what the fuck? I was one of those people that said, I don't like the guy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to vote for him. Because I really don't like them. Mm-hmm. And I don't like what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't like him. I'm going to kind of hold my nose when I vote for him. But then he goes on these shows and he's a New York bombastic person.
Yeah. I was talking to my buddy today during one of my kids' practices. And he's like, what I like about him is like, he's a New Yorker, loud and always has to be right about everything and get the last word. I said, I know, I'm married to one.
And like, I went to college with a bunch of those guys.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have to like it, but I know behind it is probably someone who's genuine and sincere.
Yeah. And another friend I was talking to who's, he's he still calls himself a Democrat, but the party left him. Mm-hmm. So the Democrat Party's not the Democrats anymore. He's a Democrat. A great friend of mine, black dude. And I just say that because to say that he's another one of the 20% that rolled out. And he's from North Jersey, and I was like, well, he's a New Yorker. He's a shit talker, just like you are.
Right.
And that's the thing, like New York, if you know anyone from that part of the country, they're freaking shit talkers.
It's 90% shit talk and 10% what do you need?
Yeah.
Like, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
It's a big misconception about the area. Like, people see it and like, oh, it's just so loud and it's so brash, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay, but those same people, when you break down on the highway, they pull over and help you change your tire.
Oh, yeah.
Or if, your wife has a surgery, they're the first ones to bring you a lasagna.
Yep.
And like, obviously, it's not everyone. I'm not going to characterize everyone like that.
Well,
but it's a lot. It's a lot of them.
My wife, grew up in Long Island, and it's greater New York. So you go up there, and there's this deli I go to, and I go in and grab stuff, and I always wear my O's hat. So they just call me Baltimore. So I'd go in and like, hey, Baltimore, what's up? I would go in without the O's hat. And I go to this place maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. And I'd walk in and they remember the last thing we talked about. All this. I had more of a hometown feel in my wife's hometown, a place I visited 3 or 4 times a year, than I do at the time in my own hometown.
Yeah.
So it's, people get to think like, oh, New Yorkers are rude and blah, blah, blah. It's a huge city. They don't got time for your bullshit to stand and take a picture. Like, these people are trying to go to work. They're trying to do this, that. Like, it's just like any other big city. Go to Paris. Oh, Parisians are rude. Well, it's a huge city. Yeah. People are trying to get places. They don't got time for your nonsense.
Yeah. So we go up to North Jersey every year just to see some friends of ours. And yeah, my wife's got some friends up there. I got some friends up there. So we go up once a year and we hit up both.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but and look, I'm from upstate New York. It's not the same as downstate. So people can't say, "Well, you're from there." No, I'm not. I'm more Canadian than anything, and I wasn't born there.
You're probably closer to Montreal than you are to.
I mean, we were 3 hours from New York City. We were about 5 hours from Montreal. Yeah. So we were almost dead even.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I was probably 2 hours away from speaking Francais. You know what I'm saying? Oui, the frogs.
Yeah.
Anyway, I tell my wife this every time we drive up through New York. It's like, I don't know what it is, but like a sense of calm comes over me when I'm up there.
Yeah.
And like you said, you go in any restaurant and it's like, they know you.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest welcoming vibe. Like, it's rough, it's brash, but you still get the feeling of welcome.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. I don't know what were we talking about?
How Trump's from New York and
right.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, God, we went off on a little bit of a tangent there. I got in my feelings. I was like imagining the road. I was like, oh.
You saw the GWB and you're like, oh, I'm calm.
Right.
Nobody sees the GWB and they're like, oh, I got this feeling of calm. But I'll tell you what, when I would hit the Cross Bronx Expressway, like, now the Belt Parkway can go fuck itself. Mm-hmm. But the Cross Bronx, going that way or going through Midtown, like, it was like, oh, hey, like, no, oh, I hate this place as a toilet, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, I was like, oh, hey, here we are. Like, I knew it was almost to where I was going. There's also that feeling too. Like, and now granted, sometimes it would take me 2.5 hours to get from here to exit 16W on the New Jersey Turnpike, and then 4 hours to get from there to Long Island. But hey, here we are.
I mean, you want to curse like a New Yorker? Make that drive.
Yeah,
you'll curse the entire fucking time.
And when in Rome.
Right. You're just going to give yourself the middle finger.
Yeah.
That's what's good, because you just hate it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different kind of person. And I will say this, speaking of the people in the Democrat Party, especially the younger kids, and don't get me wrong, Trump made inroads with the younger crowd too.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. Okay, so there are people that film themselves crying about this shit on TikTok and all that.
That's weird.
Like, it seems very narcissistic to me that you're going on, that you're. I mean, are you crying before you start filming, or do you film and then make yourself cry? I don't really know how that works.
Do you have a needle that you're poking yourself with?
Maybe.
Is there an onion there?
Like
you have a red onion you just chopped up and you're...
I feel like it's a very narcissistic thing to do, because it's like, oh, I need people to look at me and have sympathy for me, so I'm going to cry on camera and post it out to the world. Most people, if they're actually sad and depressed, they normally don't video it.
No.
And then today I was listening to the local sports talk radio, and I made this post on Twitter right before we started recording this. So if you want, go through our Twitter feed, and on November 6th around probably 7 o'clock is when I probably posted it. One of the radio hosts on the sports talk radio, at the end of their 4-hour show, he was basically saying, if you didn't know what to do when you woke up this morning, or you felt like that there was no hope because more than half the country voted for this horrible person, and all the ists and isms were thrown out there. And he's like, I debated even coming into work today. I mean, this dude talks on the fucking radio for 4 hours like he's got a tough job. And we talk into a microphone for only an hour, so maybe 4 hours is tougher. I don't know.
I don't know.
But if they paid me his salary to do it, I'd certainly figure out a way to rough it out.
Yeah, but we do it after working all day and getting our kids to all these different places. That's what he does.
True. He was basically, well, I'm with you. I understand. I had a tough time coming into work today. I don't really understand all of these people, and and if you happen to be on the internet today and looked up other countries to go live in, like this motherfucker actually went online and looked up other countries for him to move to. Like, how fucking fragile are you?
Yeah.
That a presidential election has you looking for other places to go. That's like all these fucking celebrities do. Oh, if Trump wins, I'm leaving. Okay, you hyperbolic piece of shit. You're not going anywhere.
Put your fucking money where your mouth is.
Right.
And you're not going anywhere, because your life is not going to change at all. Mm-hmm. You coddled little bitch. Nothing's changing for you.
Correct. And he's going to be, I'm not a rich man. I don't care if you're rich or not. You have a platform with a lot of fucking people, and you're choosing to be a whiny baby about a presidential election, rather than using your platform to tell people, you know what, we lost this one. It's not the end of the world. Be a fucking grown up.
Yeah.
Instead, you're choosing to be a child.
Yep.
Oh my God, I get my way. I'm going to move.
Yeah.
Okay, then fucking move.
Go. Nobody cares. Don't let the doorknob hit you on the ass.
Enjoy some third world country.
Yeah.
That probably isn't going to afford you and your wife, who you just said lost rights.
Yeah.
Guess what? I guarantee she doesn't have them there either.
Right. So,
unless you want to move to Europe, which you didn't name, you're going to move to some South American country.
Yeah.
Have fun with that.
Yeah. So
don't get me wrong, I'm sure some are lovely. I'm sure Costa Rica is a great place. I've heard good things about it. Go move there.
Yeah. Now, my sister, I think when Bush won the second one,
mm-hmm.
she actually put her money where her mouth was, and she was trying to go to Australia. Wouldn't take her. Because it's so hard to legally immigrate somewhere.
Shocker. Other places have immigration policies.
Yeah, so
try going to Sweden.
Yeah.
See how fast they don't take you.
Yeah. So she went to the Australian embassy and applied for visas and was denied. And essentially it was like, You don't bring anything to the table. Mm-hmm. You have a college degree in something we don't need. They're like, are you a nurse? Nope. Are you an engineer of some type? Nope. Do you have any of these skills? Nope. Yeah, we got nothing for you. Like, bye.
Right.
She's like, but I'm an American. I can go wherever you want. Like, no, they don't want you.
You can travel wherever you want.
Yeah.
You can't stay and live, though.
Right. Get a job.
That's what, like, think about every other country treating Americans like we treat, well, I guess we don't even treat them. Well, I was going to say South Americans, but we don't really treat them like that.
Yeah.
No, like, we don't treat anybody like that. We have a pretty leaky border, as they say.
Yeah.
Even during Republican times.
Oh, yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Our pathway to citizenship needs to be fucking reformed.
Right.
So it doesn't take forever. But I think if you pass a background check and you get a provisional Social Security number, like you can't collect Social Security until after you've been here 10 years, and you don't get a citizenship until you've been working for 5 and residency here.
Yeah.
So like basically you get a provisional for 5. If you've shown in those 5 years, you can pay rent and keep a job for 5 years. Guess what? Now you're a citizen. And if you're here if you're a citizen for another 5 years after that, now you're vested in Social Security, and you can collect it as soon as you retire.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we agree on that? And again, we can't agree on that because then they can't make you mad about it and you won't vote.
Right. They don't want to. And there's Obama had the policy with the Dreamers, and done right, I think it's great. Like, you have people that are brought here, they're small children, and they want to expand to like, oh, he's 17, so he's a dreamer too. No, you're pretty much yeah. But if you're 7 and your parents come here and now you're here, you grow up as an American. It's all you know. Then all of a sudden, well, you're not a citizen. You have to go back to wherever you came from. Did you really come from there? No. Like, I thought about it like this. Like, say my parents brought me here from France, right? And I'm illegal. And they say, oh, you have to, you're not a citizen. You have to go back to France. Well, I don't speak French. I don't know the culture. I don't know. For all intents and purposes, I'm an American. But so, yeah, you have to make exceptions for those people. But if you go to the right, you're seen as weak. You're not strong on immigration. Strong on immigration doesn't mean cudgeling freaking babies and throwing them back over the border. That's not what strong on immigration means.
Never mind the fact with the lowering birth rate, we need all the immigrants we can fucking get.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying let them flood in, but I mean, let's check some ID at the door.
Yeah.
Make sure they ain't criminals. If they're criminals, sorry, you got to go.
Right. You just let random strangers walk in your house and hang out?
No.
But we do here.
Right. But if you got a clean background or whatever check they do, and you don't have the MS-13 tattoos on your neck,
right?
Maybe we can let you in.
Yeah.
And there is a way to do this, and like we said though, if you do it, then how do you get people angry enough to vote again?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, God forbid we just settle some differences, and we just move the fuck on for the betterment of the American people.
Yeah.
And maybe those that follow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I am hopeful that something happens with the Democrat Party, because if they don't, we might go from a 2-party system to a 1-party and a sub-minority party real fucking quick. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like the Green Party, but you're talking about a party where, because the GOP is just gobbling up everybody right now. Like, you pulled in the centrists with Tulsi Gabbard, the people that got pissed off about what Hillary did to her.
Yeah.
You kind of have the Bernie bros with the Jimmy Dore side of things because of what happened to Bernie a couple years ago. Yep. When the DNC screwed him over, and then Bernie went fucking establishment on everybody.
You've got all the granola hippie ladies with RFK Jr. who are coming, like, don't want poison in their food. Like, oh my God, you're a terrible person because you don't want poison in your food.
Well, and I think you're gonna with RFK Jr. you're gonna end up getting a lot of the old school liberals, like the 1960s liberals.
Yeah,
because he is as close to what his father and uncle were as anything I've ever seen. The problem is they both got shot because they were like unlike anything we had ever seen before.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing about that whole thing, and we talked about this, was the entire Kennedy clan fucked him up.
Oh yeah.
Like they all came out against him. Mm-hmm. And like the people that were part of the GOP were like, oh, they're fucking, that entire family is ankle or is neck deep in that fucking establishment shit. Mm-hmm. And somehow he's not. Now, I mean, you can't get more lefty than him as far as liberalism. I mean, you're talking about a guy who sued corporations over what's the word I'm looking at? Ecological waste dumping.
Oh yeah. He made his money as an environmental lawyer.
Oh yeah, he won big cases too.
Yeah,
like he actually won the cases.
Yeah,
and then you're talking about a guy who's going after a lot of these government agencies that are bought and paid for, like the CDC and the FDA and the USDA. And if and I'm this is a big if, because I do think there's going to be some fuckery. I don't want to say it because I'm not trying to incite violence or something like that. I think someone takes shots at some of them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they already did try it twice.
Right. Yeah, but I think some of these others that are now part of this coalition. Mm-hmm. And again, like almost every single one of them is a former Democrat.
Yeah.
Trump, a former Democrat. Tulsi, a former Democrat. RFK, currently a Democrat.
Yeah.
Still. Elon, former Democrat. The only one, I actually think J.D. Vance was a former Democrat.
Well, if you looked at it, that so they loved him when he wrote Hillbilly Elegy.
Course, yeah, well, yeah, because that was about
poor kid, single. Actually, not even a single parent. His grandmother raised him in
Appalachia.
Yeah,
poor.
Yeah,
like poor.
His only way out is to go to the Marine Corps, and then ends up doing what he's doing. But they freaking loved him. I think kind of my hope for the Democrats is that this makes them turn around and be better. And I don't know, it might be pie in the sky dreaming.
How are you going to rebuild the party when everyone's left and join the other one?
And that's the thing. And when what's left is just these establishment hacks. And, even their candidate was an empty vessel. She brought nothing to the table. Couldn't even identify, except for board, couldn't identify one single policy thing or, policy prescription for anything. But off teleprompter was awful, completely unlikable. The least popular I think popular vice president is kind of silly, but the least popular one in
she was.
Yeah, ever.
Statistically, she was the least popular vice president ever.
Yeah. So, tried to come and rebrand herself as change. Lady, you've been in there for 3 years. What have you done in the 3 years? It was just ridiculous, and you were expected to believe it.
Dude, that campaign was awful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, it was not good. The messaging, all the celebrity, and think about this. All those celebrity endorsements got you shellacked by what? By 9 million votes?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Like Taylor Swift, Robert De Niro, all white dudes for Kamala. Like, fuck it. I can't believe white dudes for Kamala didn't pull through. I can't believe Bobby De Niro, in his New York tough guy accent, didn't get more people to vote for Kamala.
Yeah.
Like, people ain't buying into, like, more and more people ain't buying into this shit. So here's my question. If you're losing Hispanic voters to the GOP, if you're losing black voters to the GOP, if you're losing women to they lost 53% of white women.
Yeah.
You've lost white men. And again, the minority demographics are sliding the other way as well.
Yeah. Just
who can you pick up now?
Yeah.
If you the whole university system got found out about the indoctrination of college kids.
Yeah.
And teaching them all of this shit.
And there's a shift there because, when I'm not sure exactly when you were a kid what your expectations were, but I never had a high school graduation party. You were supposed to graduate from high school. That was an expectation. Mm-hmm. And then college, there was no question. You're going to college.
Right.
Me, with my children, I'm all about trade school. Let's go learn a trade. No one can ever take that away from you. It's a skill that you learn that you can then go and create your own wealth, your own business, not have to work for somebody else. No one can control you. You'll get paid while you learn how to do it, rather than paying in loans to come out and be in debt up to your eyeballs and have, relatively little job prospects. So, because the laptop class is going to shrink. I think a lot of the stuff they do is, and some of the stuff, I have a lot of friends that work. I'm like, what do you do? You just send emails and sit on Zooms? Like, what are you actually doing? What do you produce?
Don't get me wrong. If you got one of those jobs where you don't have to exert yourself, you get paid a nice wage.
Yeah. I'm not hating on them.
No.
But I'm like, what do you do? Like, what is your output, right? The input's the money the company pays you. What do you do?
I'm all in favor of doing the least amount of work and getting paid the most for it.
Hell yeah.
However, I feel like those jobs are fairly rare.
Yeah.
Most times you have to produce. Now, like you said, if your kid graduates from high school or gets a GED or whatever, and they make something or they fix something,
yeah,
there's job security in that.
Yeah.
Because I hate to tell you something, air conditioners ain't going anywhere.
No, cars aren't going anywhere.
Well, different type of car, but whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen there? But
still got shit. You still need plumbers.
Water still have to go through.
Yeah.
Water still goes through pipes. People still want their electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and people still want houses built. People still want shit built.
Yeah.
So, the trades are still going to be there. One of the things, I'm in one of those Facebook groups, and it's other podcast hosts that are in there. And I just observe and I look. And it's asking for guests or people who want to guest. And I look at when these people ask for guests for their show, or they want to be a guest on a show, there are so many podcasts with these so-called life coaches who have never had a job.
Yeah.
And they're going to teach you how to live life because they know so much about it. But they haven't lived life. So, the people who were my life coaches, and I'm going to put that in air quotes for people that can't see me, were my father, my grandfather, my mother, who had lived longer than me and had lived life.
Right.
Their coaching was from their experience of life.
Yeah. Like, I am my children's life coach.
Correct. How can you call yourself a life coach and make money from that if you haven't lived a life?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't gone through any steps of life. Like, how are you going to coach someone how to get a job when your only job was when you created one out of thin air and called yourself a life coach?
And suckered some people into paying you to do it.
Correct. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Or you decided to create a podcast about being a life coach or being a motivational speaker or being an entrepreneur when your only business that you've ever started was this podcast. Like you just said, you and I have other jobs.
Yeah.
This is not our job. We do this for fun.
Right.
Granted, we do have a sponsor. We do make a little money with it. And by the way, if you'd like to sponsor the show, please contact us at contact@drivewaybeerspodcast.com. And thank you to Adam Chubbuck from TechMD.com for sponsoring this show. But no, I feel like our show comes from a different perspective of our lived experience. That's where our perspective is coming from. That's where our opinions are coming from.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't lived and worked a life other than you were a teenager and you went to college and that's your life experience, and you're coaching people not to get run over. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people out there who really, we've talked about this. There are people out there who we're surprised they're able to get out of bed in the morning without giving themselves a concussion.
Yeah.
But those are the people, and somehow they luck into money or whatever, and they're paying these people to be life coaches to give them probably shit advice, right?
Well, I'm going to start my life coaching business right now.
You have more qualifications than other life coaches.
I have to get an almost 13-year-old out the door by 7:30.
Right.
And
That's a valuable skill.
2 little brothers.
Yeah, valuable skills.
And what I do is I come in and I turn the light on. I say, "Time to get up, dude." And then if he doesn't, I go in and I yell at him.
Yes. And
So
if he still doesn't, you go and pick him up by his neck.
Yeah.
And you throw him.
Drag him out his foot, get up, and the knife hands come out. So for any of you out there, and I think our listeners probably don't need life coaches, but if you have friends that do, email us here at Driveway Beers. I'm now a life coach, and I'll come to your house and yell at you.
Right.
And give you knife hands and tell you to get the fuck out of bed, get your ass in gear. Your ride's going to be here in 5 minutes. Put your goddamn shoes on and get out the fucking door. I'll do that. And I'll even make you an egg sandwich while I do it.
I mean, that is probably the best sales pitch I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You can reach Mike at Driveway Beers Podcast, .com, although I don't think he set it up so that he can actually receive the emails.
I have it. Alex just forwarded them to me. He'll get a cut.
So you can go to contact at drivewaybeerspodcast.com, and I'll forward it to Mike. I'll get you in touch. Yeah. I don't know what the Democrat Party does to become a full party again. Now, I will say this: it's the day after.
Yeah, and the thing is,
I don't want. I don't want to be like knee jerk reaction. Oh, they're done, because they're probably not.
They haven't. It's like all of a sudden, like the geese just got sucked into the engines, and all the caution lights are up, and you got to troubleshoot this thing. Like, just not pull the ejection handles. Let's see what's going on. But I'd like to see. I want 2 good parties. If we're gonna have a 2-party system, let's have 2 good ones, because then whoever wins is going to be better than the other one. And having 2 good parties that are both putting out good ideas, will make us all better.
But who can the Democrats pull from now?
They have a weak bench.
Well, but I don't just mean that. I'm talking about like from an ideas perspective.
Yeah.
If liberal ideas are being accepted inside the GOP now, because the liberal populists and the conservative populists are now finding a lot of common ground, they're saying, well, wait a minute, we can work together.
Yeah.
Where do the Democrats pull from to get votes now? If your identity politics are failing,
it didn't work. People are tired of that.
But they're not going to. I feel like they're sucking on that teat and they can't get off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really like boobs, and that boob is really fun to suck on. So
yeah,
I can't let that go. But you're drinking sour milk at that point. So if they continue to go down that road, and they lose more voters like over the next 2 elections or so, like the midterms are going to be interesting to see, like, where do they go get voters from?
Yeah.
Because the way this is going, people are, I don't want to say waking up, but as more and more people go to the GOP, and I'm not going to call it MAGA or whatever, but as more people start voting along with the GOP because of this acceptance of liberal ideas, well, now your divide isn't necessarily liberal versus conservative, and you've got to find a new divide in people if you want to create this party again, because brainwashing people eventually wake up.
Yeah,
and so you're just going to continually lose people, and if I'm telling you, if the GOP gets their ground game together, and this is another thing we can talk about. So we talked about ballot harvesting and how it's easier to do in big cities because you can hit up 1,000 tenement homes in as much time as someone can go grab 100 voters in rural parts of the country that normally vote red, right? Well, in Pennsylvania, there was an individual named Scott Pressler, and he went to all these rural counties. He went to Amish country, and he got them registered to vote, and they voted Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the ground game of going to get people registered and then going to get them to vote as well. The guy moved to Pennsylvania to do this. Like, he literally uprooted himself and went to Pennsylvania, claimed residency, and then he just got to work. Mm-hmm. And he started this 3-4 years ago. And there are going to be more people like him that go to these different liberal states or swing states. Like someone's going to go to Michigan, someone's going to go to Minnesota, someone's going to go
Wisconsin,
Nevada, Arizona, and they're going to shore them up more red. It already happened in Florida. Mm-hmm. Florida used to be a swing state.
Oh yeah,
Florida's no longer a swing state. They're going to start going into Virginia. And
Ohio's kind of losing its status as a swing state.
It's not a swing state anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's been 4 elections. It's gone red.
Yeah.
If they continue to work on the ground game where they're like, okay, look, we know it's going to take us 4 times longer to register the same number of voters, but these young people are going to go there and they're likable. Like they're not the really young, smart ass kids. It's not like the Harry Sissons and Chris Mallory's that you see on Twitter who are just fucking douchebags.
Yeah.
They're going to go with the mid 20-year-old or late 20-year-old. Going to move his family there, going to be able to register to vote there, and he's going to go and his full-time job is going to be going to register voters in these more rural areas for people that normally don't vote.
Yeah.
And say, hey, look, this is the insanity we're seeing from the other side. We want you in our tent, and yeah, we might have some liberal leanings, but for the most part, we're not batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's your sales pitches. We're not batshit crazy.
Yeah. We're not going after we're not denying plain observable truths.
Correct. Like,
we're not going to try to sell you that the pandemic that we used to destroy billions of dollars of average Americans' wealth was caused by a pangolin. Mm-hmm. And if you disagree with us, you're racist. And I think that's another thing. People are tired of being called racist and sexist and homophobic and xenophobic and transphobic and this ist and that ism. They're tired of it. They're tired of being called that just because they disagree on things and they don't support a candidate. And I think also people who the left is supposedly advocating for is tired of being taken for granted. Mm-hmm. And I think those two things kind of coalesced. And if they don't break away from it, but I think the entire apparatus is designed. You can't turn a ship on a dime. I think the entire apparatus is designed with that in mind. Like Barack Obama started it in 2012. The intersectional politics. You know, you're aggrieved this way and you're aggrieved this way, and we both have grievances with the system and the patriarchy here and here, so we're united in that grievance. People who have nothing in common, you know, but because you're aggrieved this way and you're aggrieved that way, they're kind of like, you know, now you're expected to vote for the Democrats. Why? Because you both have some imagined grievance with something that doesn't exist from some term that some Harvard professor made up and changes the definition of constantly to suit their own needs. Like, it doesn't make sense. And people are smarter than this. You know, we're no longer are they educated solely through the New York Times and the legacy media and the networks. They're getting their information from all over the place. And yet, in it, is there some, I hate saying the term, misinformation or malinformation or whatever. Yeah, there's going to be that in everything. The greatest purveyor of mal, and disinformation is probably the United States government. Somehow they're going to be the judge of it, though. I can't figure that one out. But, like, people are tired of being told this. And until they can break away from that, I don't see them really making a change. And it's almost like they got to start anew. So
I guess we will find out. This is probably, I believe, our longest episode we've ever done.
Yeah.
An hour and 47 minutes. So once I'm done with it, putting in the intro and the exit, I think we're going to be close to bumping up on 2 hours.
Like, we're getting into Joe Rogan territory here.
We are. We are. I think I'm just going to release it as one episode. I don't think I'm breaking it up.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's one episode.
Yeah.
Although I might put in the beginning that, hey, this is 2 hours. You might want to break this up over a couple car trips.
Yeah. If you have a long commute, you might get through it a day. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I see it, we put out one episode a week. People can break it up over a couple days if they want to.
Yeah.
So, let us know what you think. I mean, were you a Democrat that voted Republican? Were you a Republican that voted Democrat? Although I think that whole I think the never Trumpers have kind of gone by the wayside, and I don't think there are as many as people think there are. I think the ones that were out there had a vested interest in the status quo of the establishment remaining. Let us know. I mean, if you're a person that's struggling with the outcome, let us know that we're the assholes.
Yeah.
Because unlike other places, I'm not afraid of having people voice their opinions. All I ask is that when you put a comment, either on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're going to leave a comment, wherever you're going to leave a rating, just try and be honest and come from a place of openness when you leave a comment. And we'll be open to whatever you have to say.
Yeah. And the way to change someone's mind is not to call them an asshole or a fascist or
correct
a moron. So I never know anyone that sold a car to someone by saying, "Hey, I'm looking at a Chevy and the Ford dealer says, oh, you're a fucking moron." Like that's not how you sell a car.
You're a moron if you buy that Chevy.
Yeah.
Well, shit. You probably just sold the Chevy.
Yeah.
So head on over to tacmd.com and talk with Adam Chubbuck over at Douglas Realty. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, the Fed is changing rates. They might drop it another quarter of a percentage point or two before the end of the year. And Adam has great connections in the mortgage industry. If you are looking to get yourself pre-qualified for a loan, he can guide you as far as whether to lock in a rate now or maybe wait another month or so if you're not in a rush. Having someone with good industry insight on your side is really important to have when you're making a real estate transaction, because it is one of the biggest transactions you're going to make in your life. Even if the house is $150,000, $200,000, think about that. That is probably the largest transaction you're going to have, at least at that point in your life. Never mind if the home is $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. If you're buying a home close to $1 million, God bless you. But it's still going to be the biggest purchase you have. Do not go into it blind. Even if I'm a person, like I said, I've got a Bachelor of Science in Finance, and guess what? I would not go into buying a home or selling a home without a very good real estate agent, because they are experts in their field. They know what they're doing. And you need to go talk to Adam. TACMD.com with Douglas Realty in Pasadena, Maryland. Go talk to him.
And check out his social media stuff's pretty cool. He shows a lot of houses, and he's a funny dude, so he'll have some jokes and stuff like that. But
I like the fact that he's upbeat, man.
Yeah.
Like telling you to smile more. He's just got that upbeat feel to him.
Yeah, yeah. Not your typical, like, in the perfect suit and all that, So
Does have some snazzy suits though.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got some plaid suits that I'm like,
I own one suit. But
so
in any case,
no, wrong. I do too. I can be envious of another man's wardrobe,
absolutely, but
without thinking I could rock that same thing.
But it's not your stuffy, snooty. It's not the guy who does real estate from Step Brothers.
No,
it's not him.
No. Go to tacmd.com and go check them out. And we hope you enjoy this episode. Let us know what you think. Talk to you soon.